Ladies and gentlemen, we are here and we are live. Thank you for being here. Let me just do a quick check because uh, sometimes things don't always work as we expect them. I'm just gonna double check here to make sure that it's working, and I believe that I am live on LinkedIn as well. So if you're on LinkedIn, just say hello. Perfect, perfect. So I'm just double checking. LinkedIn is working. I'm gonna bring my co-host. That's on backstage. I'm gonna bring her very soon. And let me just double check. So we are live on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, thank you for being here. And tonight we're going to talk about a very important subject. So now I'm just gonna make sure that I am live on. So if I'm live on LinkedIn, I believe I'm live on all the platform. So I'm gonna have a my co-host with me. We're starting something that is very unique, very different. I am live also on Facebook, so I'm assuming that I am live also um, on YouTube. All right, so enough messing around. I'm going to bring my my co-host. There she is. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna do a little bit of an introduction here. So, just guys, listen, this is our first night. We're just gonna be we this is the first night, okay? So constructive criticism are welcome. And I would like for you guys to participate also in this conversation that we're having tonight. And as you can see, the title of this of the talk show tonight is called suicide awareness, and we're going to debunk some of the myth that around suicide and the time and so on and so forth. So allow us to just kind of do a little bit of a showman and do a little bit of countdown before we start our show. All right. All right, we're back. So I told my co-host Cleo, I told her that I was gonna have a surprise for her. But what she didn't know was we are live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube. And she thought that we're gonna just be live on Facebook. Listen, I'm very glamorous. I am very, I like to do things, a little bit different. So I told her that, hey, I'm gonna have a little surprise for you. She's like, there's a surprise. So we are live on three platforms. So listen, and again, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world, whenever you're watching this. Welcome to our very first live talk show. We call it the Emotional Health Talk Show with Will and Cleo. For the month of November, we are doing a series on emotional health during the holidays. And for our very first show, we wanted to address a myth that is out there. The myth is that the suicide increases during the holidays. And we are going to discuss the signs that someone is in crisis and what you could do. We are also going to discuss the gender differences that exist and to ties it everything back to emotional health. Now, what I forgot to do is I didn't introduce myself. Well, allow me to do that. Hello, everyone. My name is Will Baptiste. I am a men's emotional and vulnerable coach. I serve high functioning men to embrace their emotions and their vulnerability. I want to make sure that they feel emotionally free. I want them to experience freedom emotionally and also emotional mastery. And if you feel led, you can follow me on all the social media platforms. You can always DM me and send me a message because I want to help. I want to serve men. I want them to go from emotional constipation to from emotional suppression and oppression to emotional mastery. I also have a book on Amazon. It's called The Will to Rise: How to Persevere in the Face of Adversity, and a whole host of other things that I got going on. So, and my website is meetwilltorise.com. So, without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and let my co-host introduce herself and then tell us, how this all started, and then I'm gonna ask you the question of the point of the show that we're having tonight. So, I want you to go ahead and give us a little bit of backstory. Well, first of all, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of backstory because you're a great storyteller. You're much better at it than I. So, let people know a little bit of backstory of how did we come up with this, and where do you see this going? Over to you.
Thank you, Will, so much. I appreciate you very much. My name is Cleo, and I am also an emotional health coach. And my focus is helping women or guiding women who experience emotional trauma or feel overwhelmed with being emotionally stuck to get unstuck through actionable steps without endless hours in therapy. And so, how did we get here? Well, Will and I actually met on Clubhouse, and we also connected as well on the Owl app, and we found that we do the same work. He works with men, and I work with women, and we decided. You know what? Let's collaborate. We got to do this. We got to do something together. And he had the idea for a talk show, and he asked me, "Hey, Cleo, what do you think about this? What do you think about us, doing this show together, blending the male and the female perspective, and also giving valuable information to others?" So we were able to do that, and that's how we ended up here. Back to you, Will.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I told you guys, she's a great storyteller, and that's the reason why I had her as my co-host because she's gonna make me look good. I don't have all her talents, I don't have all her knowledge, but guess what? We're all gonna come together. This is not a competition, and we're just going to understand and to help you understand as well, where do we stand and where we are, not only in our own journey but also how we can help and serve our community and people around us. So the question I have, and you've heard what I said earlier in regards to the myth, that somehow suicide, there's a difference, in the gender, gender differences, and also suicide increases during the holidays. Have you heard of that myth before?
Well, yes, actually, I've heard it, and actually, I just found out it was a myth while doing research for the show. Because this is something that I also believed as well, is that suicide increases through the during the holidays, and with good reason. That being because I worked in the field of substance abuse, and so we would always have to be on alert during the holidays because we know there were times when people died. Sometimes our clients were a little bit sadder and depressed at the at and in this particular point, I was working in residential treatment, so they lived there, and so they were away from their families, and they were inpatient in treatment. And so that was a time where we're always on alert, assessing clients and making sure that they were okay. So I too thought, hey, yeah, that it's true that it's a higher chance of happening during the holidays. But in fact, when I was doing some research, it states that it's usually higher during the spring. And there are some differences when it comes to males and females. Men are more likely to commit suicide, and the most common way of it being done is through use of a firearm. So yeah, there are some differences with males, females, and of course through race and ethnic backgrounds as well. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you
Yes.
for thank you for helping us understand exactly the differences, because if we don't know the differences, if we don't know the myth, then just gonna take everything at face value and not doing our research. So I really do appreciate you bringing that clarity to us. And guys, if you are listening to us live, please feel free to send us questions. We might be able to answer some questions live, or we might be able to we might answer them later. But if you're on LinkedIn, just leave us let us know where are you listening to us from, and let us know if you have if you have learned anything new, and if you just you've heard everything that's has been said so far and everything that we're going to discuss. It may not be new to you, but at least we want to make sure that we repeat it. We want to make sure that it's on the forefront. We just want to make sure that people are aware of that. And it's funny you say that, because a lot of times we think that we think that the suicide, so to speak, it happens during the holiday, which, I mean, as you know, the time has just changed today. It's getting darker, the days are getting shorter, and people are feeling the winter blues, and people with without their family, so on and so forth. Even if we don't have our own family here, but we can always have create new families. So I just want to let people know that there are resources, there are other people that you can reach out to, just to make sure that you're not alone, because a lot of us do feel alone. And we can have a lot of people around us and still feel um you feel lonely, because you can have people around you, you're not alone, but you can feel lonely. And I think that's very important, the distinction. um what are the differences in according to the gender? You think, what are the differences when it comes to male and female? Did you touch on that?
Yes. So the reason why we're talking about this today is because, according to the CDC, suicide is the leading cause, one of the leading cause of death in the U.S. About 48,000 deaths in 2021, and 12.3 million had thoughts of suicide. Americans had thoughts of suicide. And then, according as it relates to gender, as I said earlier, according to the CDC, men are more likely to commit suicide. In 2022, we had 39,255 deaths compared to 10,194 women. And like I said, firearms is the most commonly used method. So it seems, according to the statistics, that men are more likely to commit suicide. And I guess my question is, what is the reason behind that? Is the reason because men are not, you know, are quote unquote known to not seek help because seeking help makes you weak, allegedly? Do you think that that plays into people not seeking help and eventually choosing such a lethal way to go out? What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can speak for a man. I've been a man for 43 years, so I know a thing about being a man and how men feels, and so on and so forth. And that is a leading us. And here's a myth, and I want to demystify this. And I said that men suppress their emotions, and I'm going to explain why we actually don't. But it looks like we are suppressing it because we're not showing it the way that society wants us to show our emotions, just like women show out their emotions. So because we are not showing our emotions the way society I won't say society doesn't want us to show our emotions, but the reason why we think that men are not showing their emotions and thinking that we're suppressing it, we actually are showing our emotions. If you look at the prison, 90% of the people that are in prison are men, right? If you look at the substance abuse, those are forms of emotional expression, but we're just not expressing our emotions on a way that is constructive, but more so in a way that is destructive. So again, looking at the incarceration rate, mostly men. If you look at the substance abuse, mostly men. Domestic violence that's done against women. Now, doesn't mean that domestic violence are not being done against men, but then again, we don't have any reports. We don't have any statistics because men are not reporting that they're being they are getting any type of violence or receiving any type of domestic violence against the partner. And of course, we have the suicide. um so all that to show you, all those are forms of emotional expression, but we're just not doing it in a way. So why is that? But I have a name for that. I call it emotional constipation. Because you can be constipated for a very long time, but at some point you're gonna have to release. I don't know anybody that's been constipated for way too long without being sick or getting some help. Because at some point, if it goes in, it must come out. So we're all expressing our emotions. So it is emotionally connected. So, and the thing is, it is very ironic because when men decide to take their own lives, at that point, they feel strong because it's the only time they have any type of control over the things, because now they can control the way that they die, which is very sad. The only way they can feel like, because men like to have control over things. And if when we don't feel that, when we feel that we're losing control, when we feel like we don't have it all together, when we feel like we are failing our families, we're failing our friends, our community, that's how we measure ourselves, based on what we can do for people, based on what we can provide to them. And last time I checked, we were human beings and not human doings. So it is connected to emotional health. It is connected to emotional quote unquote suppression, because we're not getting out in the way that is constructive. So I want to invite men and women alike, but we're talking about men here. I want to, because women, fortunately, and I'm glad that they are talking among themselves. They're all expressing themselves. Sometimes maybe a little too much, but hey, who am I to say how they should have? At least they're expressing themselves, right? We got to have some fun here. But we're doing this as an awareness. We're doing this so men can see that, hey, a man can be vulnerable. A man can be emotional. There's nothing wrong with that. But now what I'm teaching them, not only that I'm teaching them how to be responsible and how to be, express themselves responsibly, but also how to master the emotions, or how to control, because controlling your emotions versus suppressing your emotions are two very different things. So I just want men to understand the difference, and I just want men to understand that it is okay. I'm doing it. I've been doing it for the past 4 years, and I'm still here, right? And I'm not reaching out to other men to make sure that they understand that it is okay for them to express their emotions.
Yes, I definitely think that work is much needed. We do need to kind of take more action of encouraging men and women to seek that emotional healing so that they can express themselves in better ways, learn better coping strategies and better coping skills. So we're not out here, as you said, expressing ourselves in self-destructive ways or in ways that can hurt other people as well. So I wanted to ask you, what are some signs that someone is in crisis? Because prevention is key. So if we could find a way to notice that someone is in crisis before they get to the point of taking that action, what are some signs that someone would be looking for?
Great. Thank you for asking a great question. And before I answer your question, I just want to acknowledge some people on LinkedIn here. I've got Coral that's here. And I have also Ashley. Um, and thank you, Coral, for being here. And I appreciate. And Ashley say emotions are energy, as well as everything in existence is energy. It needs to be released and transferred from time to time. That's one way I can identify emotional constipation. Absolutely, Ashley. Thank you very much for this great answer, and thank you for contributing to this talk here. Now, going back to your questions, what are some signs that someone is in crisis? Because and because we need to know the how to prevent them, right? Well, some signs that someone may be in crisis include changes in their behavior. Like withdraw from society, social activities. Now, let's talk about this for a minute. And there are many, many more. You've got social activities. You have expressing feelings or hopelessness or worthlessness, and talking about death or suicide. And it is, of course, it's important that these signs they take seriously and offer support and help. Now, withdraw from social activities. I myself, and I'm an open book, and even in my book, and I talk about the time, which is I remember vividly that day was January 20, 2020. when I contemplating for the second or third time to even take my own life, and I remove myself from everybody, and but it happened at such a rapid, such so fast, and of course, because we're in the middle of a pandemic, we couldn't go anywhere. We could only talk to people, and I wasn't talking to anybody. No one was, knew what was happening to me, and I removed myself because I didn't want to be around people. And at that point, those are the signs, right? Those are the signs that I can tell you, frankly, and some people, it could be different. Some people need to be around people. Some people just get lost in a lot of work, just keep themselves busy so they don't have to think about what's going on. But we have to be aware of who we are. We have to be aware of what we are, in terms of what's going on in our lives, because we need people around us, to check on us, to make sure that we're okay. And the another sign is, expressing feelings of hopelessness. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You think nothing matters. You feel like there's no way out. You feel like you get stuck between a hard place and a rock. You feel like nothing is going to happen, and everything is just dark, and just feeling so hopeless, so worthless. I mean, nothing really matters, and those are the signs. And a lot of times we don't take them seriously, and those are, people are crying out. And I had a friend of mine, just this past week, went on Facebook. People couldn't understand, and they thought that she was just, oh yeah, I just want to get out of here. And she said, I want to disappear for 6 months. But I knew that was a clue. I knew the sign, and I'm a friend of that person. And immediately I called for help, and I called her friend to understand what was going on, because a lot of people don't understand those signs. They took it for a joke. They're like, oh, me too, I want to get away for 6 months. That's because the way she was saying it versus the way other people took it, completely different. So that's why it's so important to have people around you. And we talk also about, talking about death. All of a sudden, oh, death don't matter anymore. And that's why a lot of people, especially when it comes to women, will cut themselves, right? Because they want to feel the pain. They want to somehow get rid of the pain or feel the pain. How it is different for everyone, and this is very a general term. There are much more ways that people show that they don't want to live anymore. They don't want to continue, through that pain. We talk also about, just don't want to be here, and it is sad. It is something that we need to be taking more seriously. And I don't think that we're doing a good enough job as a society. Now we've come a long way, but but I think we still have a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think what we're doing tonight is one of the ways that we are helping bringing that awareness to the forefront, so that way we can normalize people talking about this, because it's happening every day, right? So I just want to make sure that I'm part of the solution and not part of the problem. Um, Now, a question for you: what are some of the risk factors for suicide?
Okay. Someone who may have had a previous suicide attempt. All right. They've done it before, and they're more likely to try again given situational factors or triggers that they may encounter. Okay, so you want to look out for that. Another sign could be someone who has a history of depression and other mental illness, serious illnesses such as chronic pain, criminal history, job or financial problems. We've heard that recently where, I'm sorry, where we've had people who had issues on the job, getting fired, and then give me 1 second.
Yes, we've got a little baby here. That's it. This is real, and this is how we roll, guys. Okay, we are not, fathers and mothers. We just doing our best and making sure that we're showing up not only to help other people, but also we still have our duty. So as you could hear, that little one just needing her mother's love, her mother's attention, and while the mother is doing great things in the world. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's no reason to be ashamed of having this little one, asking for the mom. So go back, back to you, Cleo.
Yes, back to me. I'm sorry. I apologize for that noise. Someone who has, like I said, job or financial problems, impulsive or aggressive tendencies, substance use, current or prior history of adverse childhood experiences, sense of hopelessness again, violence, victimization, and or perpetration. So those are some key things that could happen, that could be in somebody's past, that could trigger them to be at risk for suicide. Now, in relationships, there are also triggers as well, where someone who is experiencing being bullied in their relationship, or having a family history or a loved one's history of suicide, that could also put someone at risk as well. Loss of relationships, high conflict or high violent relationship, and social isolation. So sometimes, our relationships can mean so much to us that the loss of that relationship is so detrimental, especially if that forms our identity. That's where we get the source of who we are from, and we lose that relationship. That could put us at risk for suicide. Now, some other factors in the community: lack of access to health care,
Mm.
suicide clusters in the community. So if it's happening frequently in certain areas in the community, stress of acculturation, community violence, historical trauma, and discrimination can also be put somebody at risk for suicide as well. And some societal factors: stigma associated with help seeking and mental illness, feeling like, I can't go out and ask for help, nobody cares, maybe this is a choice I need to take. Easy access to lethal means of suicide amongst people that are at risk. So someone having easy access to, a gun. Unsafe media portrayals of suicide uh, is also a factor that could put people at risk. So to sum this all up, we all have a part to play, because as you can see, there are many areas in society, in our lives, that could contribute to someone being at risk. The media has a part to play in it, our family has a part to play in it, our health factors, our socioeconomic status, our genders. There are a lot of things that play a part in making someone at risk for suicide. So it's going to take all of us working together to combat this issue, because it is a major issue that is happening in our society today. And we really need to take the time to start paying attention more, asking questions, being involved, checking in on others, right? That is very, very important, so that we can work together, as I said, because it's everyone's responsibility, not just mine, not just the healthcare providers, not just the family members, but all of us working together as people, having that empathy and that desire to help others as well. So I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right. Well, thank you. And we got some more. And Coral said, "No need for the apology. This is life." So that's just another from one mother to the next. She said, "No need to apologize. That is life." So we appreciate the support, Coral. And we have Ashley that says, a reference from earlier. They don't want to have to continue suffering in what they are experiencing in their lives. So that is so true, because a lot of times, like I say, we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. We suffer enough. We don't want to suffer anymore, and we think the best way. And the thing is, we feel guilty for putting our families and friends in that situation. And we think by us taking our own lives, then not only will stop our own suffering, but also it stop our family from suffer as well. So that is not the right way to think. But when you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and when everything looks dark, and you don't see any way out, it's hard to think positive. It's hard to see things from a different point of view, unless you have people around you that can number one, detect those symptoms. Number two, can actually come to your aid and to be able to assess and be able to get you the help. And number three, that's going to be there to support you. Now, Cleo, I know you've worked in counseling. Have you ever had to deal with a suicidal client?
yes, I have had to.
That's all right. That's all right. That is all part of it.
Sorry about that.
No,
So,
no
yes,
apology. No more apology.
yes, no more apologies. Okay. So yes, I have had to deal with suicidal clients working in the substance abuse field. Um, Either when they're in house, we get to, which is easy, right, to deal with because we get to assess them and then we get to send them off to get a higher level of care, right, once we assess them. Sometimes clients can come in and they're not on their mental health meds, and of course and they're not using substances anymore, and so they could be at risk for suicidal ideations and suicidal attempts. So we have to be mindful of that as well. But most importantly, I remember one day I had a client, and it was he was an old client, and he had came back and he had wanted to speak to me like a few days prior, and I wasn't able to speak with him, and he left because I didn't get a chance to get to him. I was so busy. And so he couldn't wait for me and he left. And then a few days later, he comes back in and they say, "Hey, Miss Cleo, such and such is out here and they just cut themselves and they're bleeding." And I was like, "What?" So I rushed outside. And when I rushed outside, they had already left. And and when I looked for them outside, I'm looking out in the parking lot trying to find them because I heard the person was bleeding and they're like, "It's a lot of blood." And I run down the driveway, and there is a client getting ready to walk into oncoming traffic. And I was just like, I just took off running, and I didn't even think twice and went and reached out and snatched him and pulled him back into onto the sidewalk. And it was hard because he's like 200 and something pounds, way bigger than me, like 6 foot whatever, and I'm just this little 5'3" person trying to get this big man out of the street. But I wasn't thinking. And he was crying, he was out of it, and he just kept talking about how he wanted to end his life. And it was a struggle, to even get him to calm down. Had to have everybody call the EMTs and kind of stay with him and forcefully, with all my might, hold him to the ground so he would not continue to hurt himself. That day was one of the craziest days I've had lots of crazy days working in that field, but watching someone in distress and then walk into the street to hurt themselves with oncoming traffic, that was crazy. But I was able to get him to calm down and then get him to go to with the EMTs to get help. So it happens, people. It happens. And he's alive today and hopefully getting the help that he needs and is clean and sober. But it's we could have lost him that day,
Right, right.
for whatever reason, whatever he was going through, whatever he felt like he didn't want to be here in that moment. So, it's a serious matter that we really have to pay attention to. And for me, I had to struggle with it because he had came to see me days prior and I hadn't seen him. When they told me he was hurt, I felt guilty. I felt automatically like, what if I had, taken the time to talk to him? Would something have happened? And I know that's that doesn't factor in, but sometimes us being human, we think that, right? So it's
Right.
important for us to just um take the time and talk to people, check in with them, because we never know what someone is feeling. Okay.
Absolutely. I am looking at this is new to me. And so I'm able to show people's reaction or their comments here. And this is the one that Kuro said, no need for the apology. This is life. Absolutely. And another person, I've read this. Thank you, Will, for sharing your thoughts. Absolutely. So now, you know, you talking about feeling guilty earlier, and that's also can be very traumatic, because here you are, because that guilt, with guilt come with shame, right? And it is a form of trauma, because a lot of time people think that trauma, it has to be some huge something that's very um life threatened, or abuse or whatnot. But you know what? It's something like that can be very traumatic. And thank you for being able to be able to share that with us. And thank you for doing what you're doing, because we need people like you. Because we all are here to fulfill a role in this in society. And we decide, you and I decide to be in this field, to helping people, and we know how critical that is. So I'm glad that we are able to come together to speak about this. I know, especially during the holiday, and I think it's very key, it's very important that we do talk about that. um and for me, I've never really had to deal with someone in crisis, other than recently what happened, like I said, with a friend of mine. That, why I felt so bad about that is because I read what I read on Facebook, rather than telling me, or rather than reaching out to me. And I feel like somehow I failed this person, to the point where they feel like they have to reach out on Facebook. And right then and there, I was able to contact other people, to be able to contact the person. And thank God the person is doing much better. But as far as for me, a client, I've never had anybody that's in a crisis. I've had men that reach out to me to say, hey, listen, I'm going through some stuff, but it's never about suicidal ideation, or wanted to do something like that. So I thank God for that. That I've never had to deal with that directly. But listen, my heart goes out to the people that are dealing with this on a daily basis. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add to that. um Now, what can you do when you encounter someone in crisis?
Well, great question. Let's talk about it. According to the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention and 988, which is the number that you call in the U.S. If you are in crisis, if you are experiencing a crisis, if you have suicidal ideation, that would be the number that you would call. Um, so, according to the crisis hotline, they give us 5 things that you could do in order to manage or assist someone who is in crisis. So one, asking and talking about suicide may in fact reduce rather than increase suicidal ideation. So basically asking the person, talking with them, not being afraid to explore what they're going through with them. Okay, keep them safe. All right, so reducing a suicidal person's access to lethal means is an important part of suicide. So in other words, when you encounter someone and they're talking about harming themselves, you need to ask them, do they have a plan? And when they respond, you need to see if that plan is something that includes items that they could use to take their life, right? So if they
Right.
said, for example, I want to kill myself, I want to take some pills, if we know that they have, like Xanax, or I don't know, like opiates or something that they can, you know, overdose someone, or any other type of pills, they may not even die from it, but they will ingest it because they think that taking too many will end their life. We definitely want to get those things away from them. If there is a gun, we definitely want to lock it out or remove it from, from the house. Just because, again, we want to reduce that risk. Anything that they say that they would do, we want to make sure that those things are not around for them to do that. So when you get on the scene or interacting with someone, you definitely want to talk to them, ask them if they have a plan, check to see if there's access to something that they can use to harm themselves. Um, be there. Increasing someone's connectedness to others and limiting their isolation has shown to be a protective factor against suicide. So again, being that person that they can come to and speak to them. And again, while you're there with them, just like I was there with that gentleman that day when he tried to hurt himself, I spent a lot of time, it seemed like forever before the MTs came, talking to him down, trying, not trying, but just utilizing different ways of making him to realize, hey, you have a lot to live for, and these are the things. And because I had worked with him with as a client before, it was a little bit easier for me to, find things to say to him to get him back engaged, and just keep his mind off of, harming himself. So definitely be there and stay with them until the EMTs or the police arrive on the scene. Um, Follow up. After you've connected a person experiencing thoughts of suicide with immediate support systems that they need, following up with them to see how they're doing can increase their feelings of connectedness, because we want them to feel connected. We want them to have, that reason for staying alive, and knowing that you cared enough to just listen makes a world of a difference. Sometimes when people are in crisis, a lot of times they just need someone to listen to them. And that makes a difference because they feel like they're not being heard. That's not always the case, but it's helpful to have someone to show that empathy, to show that they care. Um, and as I said, there's evidence that even a simple form of reaching out can potentially reduce a person's risk for suicide. So this is why I says, it's all of our responsibility, because as I said, just a simple act of kindness can make a world of difference.
Oh
Okay?
my God. Let me interject, for two things that you said. Number one is care, knowing that someone care. Um, we take that lightly, and it shouldn't be taken lightly, because when you know people care for you, then you have something to live for, right? And here's what I'm consciously doing is whenever someone is just burst out to me, let's just say I'm in a grocery store or I'm driving, instead of getting mad, and I'm like, oh, this person may be going through something I have no idea. It's I just happen to be here. You ever seen people just kind of go off on you and you've done nothing wrong? Instead of retaliating, instead of getting back at them, and say, I know you're hurting. I know you're hurting. And I know that has nothing to do with me. But showing that empathy, showing that we care, showing that they matter, can go such a long way, because that's all that's all we want. We want to matter to people. And because we have such a low self-esteem of ourselves, we don't think nobody cares. We don't think anybody cares. We don't think anybody love us or even see us. We just want to be seen and want to be heard. And so the next time we're around someone and you feel like, this person may be going through something, 9 times out of 10, they might be going through something, especially around this time. So I think it's very important first of all, we show that we care, right? Also, to show empathy and knowing that whatever the person is doing, it's not doing it to us, but just because they're so hurt, they are such in pain that that's all they know is hurt. All they know is pain. And I think we as society, we become desensitized, so to speak. Like, to each his own. You do your thing, I do my thing, and it's sad. And bringing that kind of awareness and um sharing this with people that are listening, because you just never know who's watching, and you just never know who's listening to this. And I've got a couple of comments here that I want to just kind of go through real quick. I've got Marilyn say it is vital to check in with you in love with your loved ones, so thank you. Oh, okay, so it's vital to check in with you, love, so thank you for sharing. um and talking to that person is one thing that I do. Thank you. We've got Ashley says, um, any commentary items that could be potential unexpected weapons as well. Absolutely. Yes, knowing that someone cares then you have someone to live for. You have every reason to prosper and move forward. Those are some great comments here that I'm getting. So we're getting some positive feedback from people, and I think people are really people are people are hurting. People are hurting. I mean, all we hear in the news, and that's why I don't watch the news anymore. All we hear in the news is war, is violence, and all kinds of things that are going on. But if we can bring the light, if we can bring some positivity on this world, on what we're doing, I think that's all we need right now. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but those two words that kind of really ran to my head because when I was sitting on the couch on January 2020th, and I didn't have anybody but my children. And I couldn't, my kids were very young at the time. I couldn't call them and say, hey, dad is not doing too well. And I don't have any family here in Canada. And I didn't want people to know what I was going through, quite to be quite honest with you, because of my ego, because of being a man. I couldn't let people know, couldn't let people see the weak side of me. But I came to find out it wasn't weak at all, but I didn't have enough strength to tell people how I was feeling. And because I've been through that and I know what people are going through, and I'm just here to encourage every single one, if every single person, but especially a man. If you're a man out there and you're feeling like you have nothing to live for, please reach out to me because trust me, I care, and there are other people that care about you and for you more than you know. But they don't. But you won't know until you reach out to them. So, why don't you go ahead and finish your thought, Cleo?
Thanks, Will. I definitely hear you. And while you were speaking, one of the things that came to mind is people who suffer in silence. And women, we tend to suffer in silence, but men do, they suffer in silence as well, because as you said, that whole thought process of it being weak to even speak up. But from a woman's perspective, we suffer in silence with a lot of things, and we don't want to come out sometimes and say how we're feeling, that we're even contemplating suicide as well. So I definitely think that although we are more likely to seek help, sometimes because we don't want to burden others, because
Mm.
don't want, to be viewed a certain way, we can sit back and stay in our pain. And for some people, for them, the only release is that very lethal option. Definitely, I encourage everyone to take the opportunity. If you are right now experiencing a crisis, definitely pick up the phone and call someone. Call 988. There are experienced people that are on that hotline 24 hours a day that are able to help guide you through the process. And if you connect with one of us as coaches and you want to talk to us, not necessarily because you're suicidal, but because you want to work through some things, reach out. We're on all social media platforms. Please feel free to, reach out to us and ask for that consultation, or just to have someone to listen, because I'd rather listen to you and help you through than to not be available and something happens. That's a life gone. And the reality is, um when you take your life, there's so many other people that are hurting as well. Your family has to deal with that. So your kids. So I definitely have had some dark moments and some dark thoughts myself in the past, and thankfully I was able to work myself out of it. But not everybody is able to do that. So definitely want to encourage us all to take that step, and don't feel like you're being weak. Don't feel like being vulnerable is an issue. Go ahead, make that call. Okay, back to you, Will.
Yes, absolutely. I've got Ashley that says, she knows that feeling of not wanting to be burdened to someone. We are not burdening to nobody. That's that inner thought. That's that our inner critical self that are talking, that are telling us all kinds of things. And I can take it even further to say that's the enemy. That's the enemy. That's the enemy that come to steal, kill, and destroy. And we should not give voice to that inner, to that inner voice. We should not give time or energy to that inner voice, because the enemy doesn't want anything more than to destroy us, because he knows that if he can destroy us, then it's going to have a ripple effect on the people that are there. So this is such an important topic, and I've got Marcia that just hop in on LinkedIn. Thank you for being here. So we've been talking about the suicide awareness. Some people don't think this is real. Some people, and I used to think, foolish as I was, I used to think that, oh, people that wants to commit suicide, they just want attention. I've heard this. Oh, they just want attention. No, they don't want attention. Trust me. Whatever means that they're trying to use, you don't want to play with something like this that they want attention, because I don't think anyone will want to just kind of go through it for the main fact, because that could have an impact on your life for the rest of your life. So this is not we don't want this kind of judgment to be thrown around that they just want attention. I don't know the mind frame. I don't know the mindset at the time that they were going through it. So who am I to judge, to say, oh, this person wants attention? That is not for me to do. That is not for me to say. All I need to do is to make sure that I'm giving my support 100% without shame, without guilt, and without judgment. And I think that's what's important. Um, Coral say yes, yes, amen. The enemy is always talking negatively to our minds. Absolutely. But the thing is that it can kill our body, but it can kill our soul, because our soul belongs to our creator. This, we have about another 8 minutes, and I believe, wholeheartedly, I think this is our first live, and we're streaming on all three platforms at the same time: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We got to give ourselves credit, okay? So I'm gonna take the next few minutes to give ourselves credit. First of all, for showing up. Showing up is already showing up. I mean, how many people that are not showing up because they want it to be perfect? And I wanna give you your flowers. Cleo. I talked to you 5 minutes prior. You were having some difficulty with your computer. You've got your children around, but you showed up anyway. You know how many people who would not show up would use that as an excuse? And I think people would have more respect for you. I think people will have more, not just empathy, but I think people will, we have so much respect for you for deciding to show up, even, with your kids in the background. But you know what? You did not let that stop you. You show up because what we're doing is so much bigger than us, so important. You were not, you could have easily said, hey, my kids are going crazy and I can't show up. It would have been a legit it would have been a legitimate excuse, but you didn't use that excuse, and you showed up. So I do appreciate it. And the reason why I want to give ourselves flowers is because this is not an easy topic. I don't know about you, but for someone that lived through that, 4 years ago, and now I live, and now I live as a testament to that, to tell people that it is not worth it to take your life, because there is a life on the other side. This is just another roadblock. This is another stepping stone. I mean, like I said, every step back is a setup for a comeback. Don't let the enemy speak to your mind. Don't let the enemy tell you negative things. And surrounding yourself with people like me, with people like Cleo, with other people that can be there for you and show up for you. You are not alone. And I keep telling people, you may feel like you are alone, but we can't always go on our feelings. Can you imagine if I didn't feel like getting up this morning, if I didn't feel like brushing up my teeth, if I didn't feel like taking a shower? There are days that are like that. But if I don't do that, then I'm just going to be in a funk for a very long time. So we can't always base on our feelings and our emotions. Sometimes we just got to get up and do what we have to do. And for us to show up tonight at the very first time, We didn't care whether or not it was going to be perfect. And this, there would be a time, because I believe this live talk, the emotional health live talk show, I can see it, being global. I can see it being, happening on different channels, and I can, we were gonna look back a year from now, be like, my gosh, remember the first show that we had, and we had your daughter, crying in the background, right? And then we're gonna look at her, 5, 10 years from now, and then we're gonna show her this, and then she's like, "Oh my God, yeah, that was me," in the background. So really want to give you flowers. Really, really want to say how much I appreciate you, and thank you for embarking on this ride with me. Crazy, and I told you let's do this, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm." I mean, I thought I'm crazy. I was crazy, but you're a lot crazier than I am for embarking on that for me. So before I let you have the last word, I just want to acknowledge some people here. I have Amy. Amy said, "I'll share my brother and sister both committed suicide." Oh my gosh. Sorry. I tried 3 times and still didn't die. Realize my purpose is not an option. I see if I can find a picture of them and share with you. Summer. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that with us, Amy. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And Marcia said, yes, God will honor you. Yes, absolutely. So oh, Makita just showed up. She said, "Oh, hey, I'm late, but I'm here." But you know what? I'm glad you're here because your presence will bring so much your presence here bring this type of energy. That's what we need. And Amy says we need a collective healing effort worldwide. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for
Yes, I agree
those
with
kind
that.
words. Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Cleo. You want to
No,
add something?
I was just jumping in to say I agree with her.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And guys, just remember, just to let you know that we're gonna be here every Sunday night. This is a commitment. We are committed to the commitment. We're gonna be here every Sunday night. I don't know. This is a suicide awareness month. Cleo and I are gonna be working on the next subtitle, so to speak, and what we're gonna be talking about under the heading of suicide awareness, because there are different ways, different things that we can talk about, but tonight we really want to give you an overview. Um, um, wow, we want to give you an overview on what we want to talk about tonight, and we didn't expect it to be perfect, but as a matter of fact, it's been perfectly imperfect. And I just want to give each other flowers for just being here, and we want to be consistent and keep showing up. Coral say, I even flatlined on the table and God brought me back. My goodness, we have testimonies up in this house. So this is something that was much needed. And I can see already how people are feeling liberated and have this freedom to be able to share what they've been through and share the testimony and share their the thing that they've been through. So I really appreciate you guys being vulnerable, being open and transparent, and share your story with us. This is so amazing. And Cleo, yeah, we wanted to keep it about an hour. Someday we may go a little bit over, but we know this is a heavy topic, and we don't want to overwhelm people with this topic either. I want to make sure that we keep it, we keep it as safe as possible, and not wanting to trigger anyone. But we know that from time to time we may say things that may not come out the right way, may not be the right tone, and so on and so forth. And we want to say that we do apologize in advance, and if we do say things that trigger people and that kind of they come out right. It is not our attention. Our attention is, we mean well. We just wanted to share our, at least from my perspective, I just wanted to share what I've been through, and helping people understand that, hey, you are not alone. We are here for you. You can reach out to me. And next time I will put a Cleo's. Why don't you go ahead and share your website, because my website is on the banner going through, but I didn't have your website to put on. So why don't you go ahead and let people know how they can get in contact with you, and what kind of services that you offer.
Hi, yes, you can get in contact with me through coachingwithcleo.com. That is again coaching with Cleo, CLEO.com. And to get in contact with me. And also, I want to say this, to go along with the suicide awareness, I'm having an event for women this weekend. You can get tickets to that event. It's free. It's called the Empower Her Celebration, and it's going kind of like with that same theme that young lady spoke about, having that healing across the world. And so definitely, it's to bring awareness to women's issues. Men, you are welcome and invited to come as well, because it's important for us to understand each other, not just our feelings and emotions, but our behaviors as well, so we can better interact with each other. If we understand, then we can do better. And so that's why I'm having the event this weekend. It's called the Empower Her Celebration. It starts at 11 a.m. And like I said, you can go directly to my website and get your free ticket, and you will get the link to the event. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be phenomenal. I have a group of 5 women that will be speaking and sharing their journeys, because again, we want people to know that you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone. At times we can get into a situation where we feel like everything we're experiencing is only happening to us. And again, that keeps us locked in where we don't want to seek help. I know, I've been there. I've been there. And this is why this is so important to me. I'm so passionate about it. And I really encourage anyone who's listening to go out and get a ticket so we can come together, as even though this will be a small community, but guess what? We don't have to be big to make impact. We don't have to be extravagant to make changes, lasting changes, to help people change their lives and seek better for themselves. So check me out, check out my website, and back to you, Will.
All right, thank you very much. So, guys, again, we're gonna be here every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you be on the lookout for that as well. And for those of you who are watching, in my website is there, meetwilltorise.com. I have an event coming up on December the 9th, which is going to be building family support based on the AAA effect. And for those of you that may ask, what is the AAA effect? Well, that is awareness, acceptance, and action. I've done 2 master classes so far. One on the spiritual aspect of the awareness, and I've done it on the business aspect awareness, and also building emotional strength. And this time coming up on December, which is going to be around the holidays, family, and I want to talk to you guys about building family support around the awareness. And also in February, I'm gonna have it for couples. It's gonna be the AAA aspect when it comes to relation. How do we become aware of ourselves in a relationship? How do we accept our partners, and what are action that we taking daily towards that relationship? So if you guys want to check out everything what I got going on, go to meetwilltorise.com, and just simply enter your email. I'm going to have a freebie for you because I've got 2 ebooks that are available as well as alongside with my book that I just published on Amazon. Go check it out. Meet Will to Rise. The Will to Rise. How to persevere in the face of adversity. And that's going very well. So if you want to learn more about what I do, please, 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 I'm asking the women. I'm asking you, because men, and I don't want to throw men under the bus, because I'm here to serve them, but they are not coming to me. But if you can take my message to them and start creating that safe space for men to open up to you, I believe that we might get a chance to get men to open up. Because I'm just gonna be a little bit vulnerable before we close. I've been married twice, and I don't remember one time that I was able to be fully myself, fully vulnerable, fully emotionally naked. And when I did try, I felt emasculated. I felt, I was belittled. I just felt like, a little boy. And there was a little boy inside of me that was crying, needing, that support that he always wanted, that didn't have. And I shut down after that. So I'm here. I'm a living testimony to what I'm talking about. This is not things that I just learned from a book, from courses, and getting certification. Those are something that I live in the past, and that I'm bringing. I'm using my life. I'm using my experience to be able to set other men free. So if you have a man in your life, which most women do, either a brother, a son, a father, please, please, please reach out to me, and I want to help you to be able to create and teach you how to create a space, and how to approach a man, how to get a man to open up. And that's what I'm here to do. Because when our men open up, when our men can freely express themselves, they show up stronger, they show up more resilient, they show up better as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a brother. They show up in every area, even in their spiritual life, financial life, in a career. They show up such a bit much better way. Why? Because now they know how, they have done the self-awareness, they are able to express themselves, so now they can show up in a way that is more constructive instead of destructive. So that's pretty much it for me. We're about 6 minutes past the hour. Is there any last word that you want to live with the people that are listening right now?
Yes, absolutely. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who joined us this evening. You could have been anywhere else as I get my checkup from my daughter. I thank you so much for joining us for sure, and for being vulnerable with us. For those of you who were able to be vulnerable and to share, and we will continue to show up, because we do believe that these conversations are important, and we also will continue to be a resource for you as well. Um, I,
Absolutely.
I also want to say thank you for listening. We hope that you were able to get some valuable information, and some steps that you can take if you encounter someone who's in a crisis. Um, one last but not least, if you want a full list of risk factors or things that you can do, you please visit the CDC website. We're gonna put the link in the comments, once this gets posted, so anybody can go ahead and get to that. And remember, suicide is preventable. Okay, it is preventable, and everyone has a role to play to save lives and create healthy and strong individual families and communities. And that's the best way, I think, to end, is to let us know
Yeah.
that we can do it, and we need to do it together.
Absolutely. And my last word is that everyone has a will and the ability to rise. So therefore, let us all rise together. Once again, I want to thank every single one of you that are watching us live on LinkedIn, that have been interacting with us. I appreciate it more than you think. This is our very first live on all three platforms. I think we did a pretty good job in being your host. So if there's anything that you think that we should do better next time, any topic, okay, any topic that you want us to talk about that is under the umbrella of emotions or suicide or whatnot, please share with us. We'll love to be able to take what you have submitted, so that way in the next time we can talk about it. So I'll really appreciate you guys send us some comments in regards to the topic that you'd like for us to discuss. Again, you could have been like Cleo said, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. So thank you so much for watching us. Thank you for watching in replay. If you want to go ahead and share that with other people, and again, if you need a shoulder to cry on, if you need somebody to listen to you, if you need somebody to talk, know that we are here. We are available for you, and please know that you are not alone. On this note, thank you very much, and we will see you again next time. Goodbye, everyone.